Thank you so very much. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Thanks so much for having me. Am I sounding okay to all of you? Yeah. Wonderful. Thank you so very much. There's a lot that I wish to say, and we only have so much time, so apologies in advance if I sound like an auctioneer, but we'll try to make this nice and quick. I thought we'd start with this lovely illustration for our month's topic, inclusive, because this is something that's very important to me. It's been part of my life's journey, and of course what I'll share with all of you, and I hope it's part of yours. What's striking about this image to me immediately is that what you see is circular. And of course, no man is an island, no woman is an island, no person does anything of any wealth or any worth by him or herself. And my wish to begin with this is to come back to this time and again, because our lives are circles. And I'll speak to that in just a moment and over the course of this talk. Also, I want to talk about playing, because what you see is a very playful, happy image. And there's a game that we play when we start our lives called show and tell. It's the first game we play. When we get to a kindergarten, we want to tell others who we are, what it is we have to say. We play show and tell. We never stop playing that game over the course of our entire lives. And my life is this is exactly what we're doing this morning. We're playing show and tell, and thankfully you're giving me the chance to do that with you this morning. This is the game I've been showing and telling for the last few years of my life. It is my life's love and work. I make pictures of writers principally for their books, and I make pictures of people from other walks of life. Of course, I'll share that with you. This is what's available for sale next door, but we'll get to that later. So just very quickly, a few photographs of people who are in my book and who are not. Some faces you'll know and some you won't, but just to give you a sense of what it is that I'm doing in the day-to-day. This is Donna Tartt, who wrote a worldwide bestseller called The Goldfinch. It will become a feature film out this October with Nicole Kidman and others in the role leading that film. Chinua Achebe, the continent of Africa's greatest writer through its history. He's no longer with us. He hails from Nigeria, but Nigeria's greatest writer alive today, Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, very much is, and she's written a novel called Americana, if you've not read it, that speaks to the very nature of what we're talking about this morning. Salman Rushdie, who spent 10 years of his life in hiding because of what he'd written as a work of fiction called the Satanic Verses, and that led to the Ayatollah Khomeini asking that he be killed. Still very much with us, still very strong, here at the age of 71 last summer. Toni Morrison, Nobel Prize winner, great gift to the world and to our country, of course, as a U.S. person who won the Nobel Prize for fiction. Our national worldwide treasure. Cormac McCarthy, author of a number of works that speak to the most poetic moments of the worst of the human experience. If you've not read his work, then perhaps you've seen No Country for Old Men or The Road. Mystery of this amazing man I photographed in Santa Fe. J.K. Rowling, I hope you know who she is. Beautiful, elegant lady. Malcolm Gladwell, A Career of Curiosity, hopefully inspiring curiosity in all of us. Oh my goodness. This is the fellow, of course, behind whom we have Hamilton. And if you've not read, and I apologize for suddenly blanking on my friend's name. there are a lot of people here. But Ron Chernow is a man who's written biography after biography. I photographed him for his newest work, Grant, about the life of Ulysses Grant, and and I'm sure you all know who's buried in Grant's tomb, but you don't know where it is. It's in the Upper West Side of Manhattan. Elie Wiesel, winner of the Nobel Peace Prize. He wrote a book called Night, which was a reflection of his suffering and his family's suffering at the Auschwitz camps, and of course he was fortunate to survive when most of his family did not. A man of incredible grace, sadly. Ian McEwan, one of England's and the world's greatest literary treasures, and that's in front of his home. About 3 hours outside of London. That's where he writes. Jessamine Ward, the first woman and the first African American to win the National Book Prize for fiction. Terrell Alvin McCraney, local fellow from Miami, Liberty City. He's a playwright. He's now the head of drama at Yale, and he is known for having written a play called In Moonlight, Black Boys Look Blue, which became the movie Moonlight. You might recognize the colors from the poster. Charles Vallot, you might know him from his weekly op-ed in the Times, but he's also on CNN a great deal, but he had written a memoir for which I was his photographer. Masha Gessen. Masha Gessen is our country's leading expert on all things Russia. She came to the United States in her teens. She is Russia's most famous member of the LGBT community. When Russia, just I believe now 3 years time ago, made it legal to physically oppress people who have of same-sex orientation. There to cover that legislation, she herself was beaten and she survived. Binyavanga Wainaina, a very well-known writer from Kenya, This is him before, and this is after him coming out, and in his home country it's illegal to be gay. Marlon James from Jamaica, he just won the Booker Prize for his last work, and he has a new novel out right now. Also openly gay fellow, but an incredible talent who teaches in Minnesota. Sunil Yapa, writer from Sri Lanka, and I thought to just share this picture with you because that's my jacket. It's nice to see in pictures. But son of immigrants, and with a wonderful story to tell about what it is to love in challenging times. Tiare Jones, who wrote a national bestseller called An American Marriage, and it speaks to what it is to live the African American experience of love in challenging times in our country. On to people who write young people's literature. This is Jacqueline Woodson, who's actually our national ambassador to young person's literature, a holdover from a previous administration, the title, but it still exists. Jason Reynolds, who also writing young person's literature and a new wonderful star on that genre. Michelle Alexander, who wrote The New Jim Crow, how our U.S. Prison system is acting as a surrogate since slavery is no longer permitted. On to poets. Patti Smith, I hope you all know who this beautiful woman is. She came to the United States, she came to New York from Pennsylvania wanting to find her voice as a poet. She worked at Shakespeare and Company bookstore in New York City and wound up meeting Robert Mapplethorpe in the park, and she went on to become the wonderful woman we all know. Juan Felipe Herrera, National Poet Laureate from 2015-2017, and our world's foremost Chicano poet. Amiri Baraka, a poet who championed civil rights in the 60s and 70s, went on to also author a number of plays, no longer with us. David Tomas Martinez, Latin American poet who was a former gangbanger, and he said that poetry saved his life. Eileen Miles, probably the most prominent poet in the LGBT community our country has. Elizabeth Alexander, if you guys watched President Obama's inauguration, she's the one who recited her poem. Kimiko Han, a Japanese poet, and now another Japanese person. So, of course, I would hope you all know the world's most famous widow, sadly, Yoko Ono. And, of course, I want to talk a little bit about her late husband. So seeing this picture reminds me to tell you the story of something remarkable for which John Lennon was punished as a child. When he was in kindergarten, I believe it was kindergarten, he was asked, the entire class was asked what he or she wanted to be when he or she grew up. And he was punished for his answer because he wouldn't subscribe to a job title. He just said he wanted to be happy. Tina Rewen, so now we're going to share some musicians with you. This is Tina Rewen. Tina Rewen comes from the island of Mali. They won the Grammy Award for Best World Artist, I believe, in 2012, and were nominated again in 2018. They speak no English. I speak very little French, but we got through the shoot. And the joy of not having that common language, but having the common language of body language, expression, humor, and un peu de français, we had a lovely experience. Pussy Riot, I would hope you know who they are. They're in the news recently. A number of years ago, Putin put them in jail for their songs against him. And after they served their time and with worldwide outcry, they were able to be released and come to New York. Björk, my goodness, magic in a human body. Michael Stipe from R.E.M., very placid fellow. This is someone you don't know. This is an artist named Jennifer Rush, and she's on in years, but she had 50 top 10 hits in Germany. I hope you all know who this amazing human being is, Questlove. The RZA from Wu-Tang Clan. This was all planned out, and absolutely not. We have a lot of pictures to go through here, so bear with me. But at the time that I was asked to make this picture for a magazine, he was doing so many things. He was producing records. He was still rapping. He was doing films with Jim Jarmusch. He was producing. He was starting Wu Chess, and I thought he's involved in so many things. He's such a virtuoso. So why don't we put the concept of virtuoso in the picture? His management approved it, so I rented a violin. And he proceeded to beat the hell out of this, and I told him how expensive it was. And then he shows up 2 hours late. Sorry, I'm late, let's have lunch. And then I'll give you the rest of my day. We had a lovely lunch. We talked about all kinds of things while everybody else listened. And then it was time to get started. And I said, okay, throw your suit on. He said, suit? Don't you know the concept? I talked to your management. No, no one ever told me. Oh boy, that's my suit. Same size. He's a vegetarian. The late Lou Reed, the late and beautiful Sharon Jones. Sharon Jones did a great job of telling me the difference between joy and happiness. This is joy. Solange. When I photographed Solange, I had about 5 minutes. She's about to go on stage in front of 5,000 people, and I'm back in her trailer, and I said, Solange, your hair is so beautiful. I just want to pull your fingers through your hair and just see those braids flow. She pulled her hair back and said, I can't hear a thing you're saying. She had these little pads in her ears. Bono. This handsome man, slightly more handsome, eloquent, better talented, spoken than me. He's amazing. Nick Offerman. His inspiration to become a comedian came from watching Animal House as a child, and he really loved the scene in which John Belushi raised his eyebrows. So I said, do the same for me. This beautiful person. Ai Weiwei, one of our world's foremost artists. He made a documentary film that I hope you had a chance to see. It's online now, I believe on Netflix, called Human Flow, about the refugee crisis. Important film. Oh my goodness, help me out here. This is the fellow who shared secrets while a member of the military. Chelsea Manning, thank you very much. His life cast in darkness, her life cast in darkness for a long time, but a really beautiful soul. John Lewis had his skull crushed by way of the Selma March, and went on to love us nonetheless. National Secretaries Day is next Wednesday, and so I thought if you share a few secretaries with you. This is former Secretary of State Henry Kissinger and former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. Smiling face you might recognize. A few other people who also love us. This is Julian Castro, former mayor of San Antonio, another Secretary of HUD under President Obama, and he's running for President of the United States right now. Gloria Steinem, one of our foremost feminists, of course. I hope you all know her. This is Opal Tometi, co-founder of Black Lives Matter. Tarana Burke, founder of the Me Too movement way back in 2006. All those people I shared with you just now are people who, of course, are heroes and heroines to different people, and they all have stories to tell. This is another heroine of mine. This is Heidi Latsky, who recognizes that stories are not only told on stage and film, on television, or in books, they're also told through bodies. So she's a dance choreographer. She had studied, sorry, I forgot the person's name, but her concern is to advocate for beauty of the human body and the language the human body speaks, no matter its shape, form, condition. So you can see here we are in rehearsal, and we have dancers who are wheelchair bound, spinal conditions. See how amazing Tiffany is there. Cerebral palsy, burn victim, blind, and still be that happy, of course. In performance in Central Park. Heidi Latsky. Latsky, L-A-T-S-K-Y. Now performing outside of the new Whitney Museum of American Art. The outdoor stairwell there. Whatever package we come in, we all are beautiful. At the entrance to New York University's Tisch School of the Arts. The fellow on the left is blind. City Hall. United Nations. National Portrait Gallery. And of course, expression is a community effort, as you saw in that very first illustration, and you see in these photographs. And hopefully it becomes contagious in a positive way. You're welcome to dance with them. Mm-hmm. Identification in another person, of course, is the first step to building empathy, to moving forward as a people, to becoming a better person, and to building a community. So I thought I'd share with you a few pictures of people whose voices we're not necessarily wanting to hear. So these are pictures of illegal immigrants. This is Alex from Russia. Alex is homosexual, and he left when he learned he could no longer live in his country without being beaten. Leland from Bangladesh, writer, intellectual, And the government there wanted to silence his voice, so he came here so that hopefully he would have the chance to speak. Yesenia is a legal refugee from Venezuela, where she spoke out against the dictator Chavez, for which she was expelled from school, was not permitted to get work, and the lives of her family were threatened. So therefore she came here, and all she really wants to do is just love her daughter. Songcho is from Tibet, where she was in an abusive relationship and just needed to be able to provide for her son. In 2014, Trayvon Martin was murdered, and that really upset me. Sorry, I'm really nervous. And that's okay, because nervous energy means something good is happening. So I wanted to speak out to that because I remember the quote from Geraldo Vera, who said that if Trayvon Martin was not wearing a hoodie, he'd still be alive today. And I'd never thought that a piece of clothing could be seen as an object of fear. I thought it would be smart to then see that as a vehicle for love. So these are pictures I made at the William Dandy Middle School in Broward County. And we made a peace symbol, of course, as you can see. And then I invited a lot of friends to come by, and we built a bouquet. And of course, the whole idea is to fill our hearts with what each of us has to offer to the other. But I thought I'd share with you another quote from our friend Lennon, which reads, "There are two basic motivating forces, fear and love. When we are afraid, we pull back from life. When we are in love, we open to all that life has to offer with passion, excitement, and acceptance. If we have the chance to share what gifts we have with the world and with others, then beautiful things can happen." I want to say thank you to all of you for the chance to move from Broward County to Palm Beach County. And I'm sorry it took me a lifetime to be here. Thank you so much.